Leaders, real life leaders.
Hey guys, a lot of times you hear me interviewing lots of amazing guests, but today you get to hear me being interviewed by someone else. Check it out.
Our guest topic today will be focused on the art of delegating, a skill that will allow you to scale and create the freedom-filled life we're all looking to attain. Chantel Ray started out in real estate and created a team, and her team sold 1,500 transactions, which led her to create her own company called Chantel Ray Real Estate. And then she changed the name to CanZell Realty, which is in 18 states. Her vision is to create a global real estate company providing agents with technology, training, support, and leadership so that they can provide a wowing experience to their clients. She wants agents to have ownership as well as revenue share, and she is also the author of 2 books. Chantel is married to her husband, Rhyan, has a daughter, Shayla, and a son, Kyle. Let's sit back, relax. Chantel, thank you so much for joining us. The floor is all yours.
Hi, how are you? So good to be here. Thank you so much for having me. So let me just ask you, do you want to ask me questions or do you want me to just kind of go with it and tell you kind of my story and how I created this idea of delegating everything but sex?
I think just go with your story, introduce yourself to everybody, kind of go through it, because I think not many people know your background story. It'll be great to hear.
Okay. Well, as you know, I have now created a company where we're now in actually 20 states now. And I will tell you, I have always been known for delegating everything I do. Like people would be like, oh my gosh, you just literally delegate everything. So I'd have a friend come over and, my assistant was blow drying my hair. And she's like, you even delegate blow drying your hair? Like that is ridiculous. And so between cooking all my meals and doing the lawn, and there's really not very many things that I don't delegate out. And that's kind of what drove me to write the book, How to Delegate Everything But Sex. And I will tell you, even just recently, as we've grown our company into 20 states, the last couple of years, I literally started hating what I was doing. And the reason is because when you grow into multiple states, there's so many things that you have to do. And so I started taking on back things that I shouldn't have been doing because I was like, well, we need to save money so we can do this. So I'll start doing this and I'll start doing this. And I started realizing that that's when people get to a place where they go, I have different friends I had one who started a bakery and she ended up just shutting the business down. I know a couple other people who had different businesses and they just created a business that they couldn't stand because they were doing so many things and they were wearing so many hats that they just said, either I'm going to sell the business or I'm going to shut this thing down. And so I just really got to the place where I was feeling that way. And I was like, wait a minute, what am I doing differently than I was doing before when I loved what I was doing? And I was thinking, I started taking back jobs that I can't stand doing instead of delegating them out. And so I just decided, okay, let me just really try to teach people how to do this. And I'll give you an example. One of my friends owns a counseling company. It's a Christian counseling company. And she basically, was saying, I feel like I have to do everything. I'm the, have to be the when she first started, she was the receptionist, the HR payroll, she did benefits, she was the therapist, she filled out the health insurance coordinator, she was the billing liaison, she was accounts receivable, she ordered supplies, she did the office maintenance, she just did everything. She was the CEO, the COO, the CFO, and the counselor, and the office manager, and everything. And so it was funny because she came to me and she said, listen, one of my office managers is having a baby and she's decided that she wants to she's not going to work here anymore. So she said, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to stop counseling and I'm going to go ahead and start doing some of the office management stuff. And I think I could probably get it done for 20 hours a week. And I looked at her and I said, you've specifically told me you hate all the admin stuff. You hate the office management stuff. You hate that stuff. When I ask you, what is the one thing that lights you up? You say, actually, the thing that lights me up is counseling. And so I also had this idea, a lot of people kind of say, oh, get to a place where you can completely retire. Like all you have is passive income. And I'm really passionate about passive income, but I don't know how many of you have gone, me and my family went on a vacation, and, after about 4 days, I'm kind of like, I'm tired of just sitting on the beach and relaxing. Like I'm ready to come back and do something. And so I really wanted to help people to build a business that they could work maybe 10 to 15 hours a week, maybe even 20 at the max, but that they loved what they did so much that they would never even really have to retire, right? Because that lit them up. And even my grandmother, she lived to be 102 years old, and she didn't retire until I think she was like 89. And she still just kept herself really busy and really engaged. And so one of the things that I like to tell people is, okay, let's figure out what lights you up and what you hate doing and figure out how you can delegate that out. And one of the things that I feel like is going around in the entrepreneur space that I really want to address is people are like, you need to take everything off your plate that you don't love and you only do 100% of what you love. And I actually don't agree with that. I think you can get yourself to a place where you are doing 80 to 90% of everything that you actually love to do. And that is actually, it's reasonable and it works. And I'll give you an example. So Gary Keller of Keller Williams, he knows that I'm one of his competitors, but yet he still will try to get on the phone with me. I probably talked to him at least twice last year. He flew me in. We had a private lunch together, and he still does meet with top people that he's trying to recruit over or merge over with his company. And I'm sure that's not his favorite thing to do. It's not really his favorite thing, but I believe that there's certain things that you will have to do that is really, really great dollar productive activities. But if you can get yourself to 80 to 90%, I love what I do, and then I do maybe 10 to 20% of what I do, I don't love it, but it's such dollar productive activities, high dollar productive activities, that it makes sense. So in my book, I talk about $10 activities, $100 activities, $1,000 activities, and $10,000 activities. And so the first thing that you have to do to remove off your plate is to get rid of $10 an hour items. And when I say $10 an hour items, a lot of people are like, well, you can't even hire anyone for $10 an hour. So that really is not possible. Well, the truth is, we have a huge team of about 10 people in the Philippines that we have. We have another virtual team from other areas as well. But we have a team of people where they make anywhere from $4 to $5 an hour. And I currently have 2 executive assistants, and then I have 1 house manager. And so what I'm saying is, when I say $10 an hour, I'm saying you might pay $5 an hour for an executive assistant that is in the Philippines, but you also might have an assistant here that you pay $20 or $25 an hour. But again, it kind of averages out, so I call those $10 an hour activities. And so what you want to get to the place is you want to kind of do an audit on your calendar and say, okay, what am I doing that are $10 an hour activities? What am I doing that are $100 an hour activities? I mean, I have some friends that I know, obviously I'm in real estate, and I have a lot of friends that rehab a lot of homes, or they're home builders. And one of the guys that I know, I was talking to him on the phone and I was like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm going to Lowe's. We ran out of this or that, and I'm going to Lowe's to go pick this up and pick that up. And I literally looked at him and I'm like, are you kidding me? That is a $10 an hour task. And you're wasting your time driving to Lowe's, driving to Home Depot to go get these kind of things. That is something you have to delegate out. And he's like, I know, you're right. And finally I said, can you promise me that that's where you have to start, where you go, I'm never, ever doing these $10 an hour activities ever again. And so if you look at your calendar and you want to do a time and an energy audit of everything that you're doing, going, okay, let's look at this item. Is it a $10? Is it $100? Is it $1,000? Is it a $10,000 item? And then you have to also look at, does this thing that I'm doing, when I'm finished doing it, does it give me energy? Do I love doing this? Or when I'm completely done, I'm just like completely drained. I can't stand doing it. And I just want to crawl into the hole and take a nap, right? So you want to go through your calendar and literally do that because it's super, super important. And for us, for me, I have some different checklists. So for example, for my house manager, and if you go and you pre-order my book, you can get the checklist for free, but it literally shows what she does when she starts. I mean, things to the point of like my vitamins. So I'm really big on taking supplements, and I probably take about anywhere from 10 to 15 supplements a day. And so for me, this is how I look at my time. Me opening up each one of those bottles each day, that's not a good use of my time. And so for me, anything that's going to take me 10 or 15 seconds of my time, I even look at that and go, let me try to delegate that so I don't have to do it. And I don't want to have to even remember it. She knows exactly which supplement I take at what time of day. She knows what I take before bed. She has it right out there and, by my bed so that I can remember to take it. And so I tell you that only because I want you to see how minute I get down to every second of my time. Things like my car. So for me, I personally think you should only have an electric car. And so I have a Tesla. And so literally when I get home, and I have my assistant do it too. I don't usually put it on the charger. Every once in a while I will on the weekends if she's not there. But for me, we have a Tesla charger. I can either have my assistant do it or she can literally go boop and put it in. If you go get gas in your car, you're looking at a solid 10 to 15 minutes that you're wasting every time you go get gas. Someone's right before you, they go into the Wawa, they go get a drink, they're packed, whatever it is, someone before you is, window washing their windows. It just gets out of control. And again, that's an extra 10 minutes that you could be doing something else with. And the biggest thing is that when you start freeing up your time, you can actually start doing bigger items, and you can start spending your time reading books and growing and taking yourself to the next level. And when you're freeing up your time because you're delegating so much stuff out, I'm not saying to take that time and just sit on the beach and do nothing, which that's good too, because you need that kind of downtime as well. But I also think you can take that time and put it into $1,000 or $10,000 an hour items to take yourself to the next level. And for me, one of the things that I always say is, you have to look at everything you're doing and you have to see, how can I automate it, right? So for example, there's so many things that I do that are just on automation. So like, if I know my house manager will know, okay, we go through this much toilet paper or this much paper towels You can have that on order where you can automatically have that delivered. So it's one less thing that you have to think about. All of our groceries, even though I have a full-time house manager, we order our groceries through Instacart, right? So because it's so much easier, because it remembers everything that you had, we kind of order a lot of the same things. So it already knows, and you can store that in there and be like, boop, reorder what I ordered last time, one click. Otherwise, for her, if I'm paying her hourly, by the time she goes to the store and everything else, it ends up costing more money. So it's about constantly saying, people say to me all the time, they're like, I just can't believe how much you get done in a day. And it's like, yeah, I get so much done because I delegate everything out. And we have to stop doing things that somebody else can do, that we can pay them a little bit of money that we don't enjoy doing. And so like bookkeeping, for example, most people, if you're an entrepreneur, bookkeeping probably doesn't light you up, and it doesn't cost a ton of money that you can pay someone else to do. When I tell you we have bookkeepers in the Philippines that can do that for $5 an hour that are amazing. And so what we've done is we actually help people. We can actually help you hire, and we kind of do a little bit of training with them so that we know that they're really good. We charge a small flat fee, and then you have your own assistant. So that's one thing that we do. And then another thing that we do to help people is that you can actually pay like $20 an hour and just hire that person to do admin stuff to get yourself going on that train, right? So like some people are like, well, I can't hire a full-time person. I don't even know what I would do with that person. And so what we do is we say, okay, we're so passionate about you delegating. We've got admin that can do a ton of different things, and you pay $20 an hour. And then whatever you need them to do, you can buy 3 hours, 5 hours, you can buy 1 hour to try it out. And what I tell people to do is if you are really having a hard time delegating, you can start by just doing a little bit of a fun where you go, you know what, I'm going to put $500 or $1,000 this week aside, or however much you want to put aside. And this is the money that I'm going to use. You can put cash, that I'm going to delegate all the things that I don't like doing. I mean, even things like, getting your car cleaned or whatever else that you want to do, or cleaning your house or anything like that. You just go, I'm putting this money aside. I have 2 weeks to do it, but I've got to take this money and make sure I'm delegating it out. And once you get into that flywheel, you will go ahead and start doing it more and more. I want to go back to the girl who owns the counseling business for just a second and tell you about her. I don't know how many of you guys have ever read the book, The 5 Love Languages, but a lot of times people give. So like one of the love languages, is acts of service or gifts or quality time. So if you're somebody, what the book says is if you're somebody who loves gifts, then you probably will give your spouse a gift, and their love language might be acts of service. And so you just keep giving them gifts when they're like, man, I wish you would do the dishes, or man, I wish you would do this. And what happens with delegating is 2 things. Number 1 is you think just because you don't like doing it, that somebody else doesn't want to do that. And that's the farthest thing from the truth. God's made us all so different. And what I think is a living nightmare is somebody else is like, I love doing this. So that's really, really important for you to remember. And on top of that, so she gave me a thing. So I said to her, she's like, I just am so frustrated because I have no more space in my office. She's like, I have, like 50 counselors. I don't have any more space. I don't want to open up another location because it's just expensive. And I said to her, why don't you do virtual counseling? Like there's so much things that you can do. Why don't you open up that division? She's like, oh, I hate virtual counseling. And I said to her, I said, all you need to do is you need to hire someone. Like if I was going to go to a counselor, I know hands down, I wouldn't want to go somewhere because that's like, I got to get in the car. I got to go there. If I'm going to go see one, I would only want a virtual one. So because in her mind, she thinks she doesn't like virtual counseling. She doesn't really offer that. And now she's out of space. And I said, she's like, I don't want to do that. I'm like, you're missing so much money off the table. You don't have to do it. You need to hire somebody who is passionate about the virtual division of that, and then hire them to run the virtual counseling business so you don't have to, add that on. And so it's really a mindset shift where you go, just because I don't like it doesn't mean that somebody else can't do that and can't take it. And I'll tell you one more mindset shift that she said to me. I said to her, well, let me ask you this. Why don't you want to open up another location? And she goes, because I think that if I open up another location, I'm not going to be able to have as much time to work out. I'm not going to have as much time to work out or be with my family. I'm not going to be able to do this and I'm not going to be able to do that. And I said, let me tell you this, 100%. And that's what almost all entrepreneurs think. If you think about Jeff Bezos of Amazon, the size of his company, do you not think that he has the time to take care of his health, to do whatever the heck he wants to do? But what we think as entrepreneurs, and I've done it myself, so I have been 100% guilty of it. And I will tell you, that is why we haven't grown as much as we could be growing. And it's because of my own mental shift. And I had to literally, because I have an autoimmune condition where it's called psoriatic arthritis. And so when I get stressed, all my joints hurt, right? So it's just like this joint hurts, that joint hurts. So in my mind, I have put that in my mind that I've said, the bigger I grow, the more stress I'm going to have. And the more stress I'm going to have, my health is going to get worse. So I basically, what I call it is a pain lid. Okay. So what happens is every one of us has something called a pain lid. And so it's like, what happens is you grow and then you hit your head on this pain lid. And then you go, you know what? I don't like that. I'm just going to kind of come down here. I'm going to shrink down and I'm not going to do that anymore because that is so painful. And I give the example, one of my friends has a gym and he opened up another gym, and one of the partners in that other gym kind of took money from him, did this, did that. And so what's his first reaction is, you know what? I'm not opening up any more gyms. I'm just going to run this one gym. I'm only going to run this because this happened. This guy screwed me. So now I'm not opening up another gym again. And so that's what it is of hitting your head on that pain lid, is where you think, oh my gosh, I don't want to grow because I know if I grow, I'm going to have to do more work. I'm going to have to do this. I'm not going to be able to work out. I'm not going to be able to spend time with my family. I'm going to get fat, whatever that is. And that's where you have to really grab your mind and go, that is nothing farther from the truth. What really is true is the more I can grow my business. Yes, I'm going to have different, it's like that more money, more problems. I'm going to still have problems. I don't care. I don't care if you work at a restaurant and go work as a waitress at Red Lobster. You're still going to have problems. It doesn't matter. You just have different levels of problems. And so you just have to get your mindset around, no, I'm still going to have problems, but the more that I can delegate, find what I love, I'm going to be able to grow a business that I'm not going to hate and that I can love. And I'm going to find out what lights me up, what makes me money. And so you literally start going and writing down, what are the things that I enjoy? What do I not enjoy? And what can I get rid of? So one of the other things that I talk about in the book is really like delegating things to other people for a certain price limit. So I'll give you an example. My assistant knows that anything that is $100 or less, they don't even come to me about. Meaning, if I say, book me a hotel at this place, and in my mind, maybe I thought it was like $300 or something, and it was an extra $100, they're not going to come back to me and say they're just going to book it because it's a $100 or less item. With my property management, anything that they do so obviously I'm in real estate. I could do my own property management. Do I? Absolutely not. And I tell them, I don't want to hear from you. If the refrigerator needs a repair, do not call me because I don't even want to know about it. Me reading that email and listening to that, I don't want to know about it. Fix the darn thing. If the dishwasher is broken, fix it. So basically, it's like, if it's $1,000 or less, go ahead and do it. Don't call me. Now, if it's a really big item like $5,000 or, that needs a new roof or something like that, I still want to know about it after it's been done. You can send me an email and say, hey, we had to do this. It was a refrigerator needed replaced. But anything $1,000 or less on those properties, I don't want to know about it. So that's taking things off my plate that I don't have to worry about knowing about. So like at the Ritz-Carlton, my favorite hotels are the Ritz-Carlton and Four Seasons, and they have it where they have a certain dollar amount. Each different position has it where they don't have to get permission to make the client happy. Meaning, let's say you're upset because the room wasn't ready at 4:00 when it was supposed to. You could say, I'm so sorry, ma'am, that the room wasn't ready. I'm going to go ahead and give you breakfast on us tomorrow morning. So here's a voucher for free breakfast. They didn't have to go to the manager. They didn't have to get permission. That was things that were put in place that you don't, because again, that it makes it where you have to then be involved, and you want to be able to empower the people that are underneath you to be able to do what they need to do. And so that's one of the reasons why they have such wonderful guests. Such wonderful service, because they have the ability to make things right and don't always have to go, well, let me talk to my manager or something like that. And so for me, that saves me a lot of time. And the thing that I've done that has really saved my time, like I said, I have 2 executive assistants. They check my inbox. So a lot of entrepreneurs get so bogged down with their inbox. They just spend they don't get anything done because they just are in their inbox all day. And for me, my assistant is the one answering my emails. And so they'll say, hey, if they don't know what it is, there's little folders in my inbox and it'll say reviewed. Or every day I talk to my assistant and she says, hey, I couldn't answer these 5 emails. This one wanted this one wanted this. How am I going to answer this? And so every day I'm spending at least 30 minutes with my assistant going through that. But then the rest of my inbox is fully taken by them. Because otherwise, I've seen CEOs and I've seen people where they've got, 14,000, 100,000 emails, and it just bogs them down. That's not something that you should be doing. And that's something that you can hire a virtual assistant, and we can help you hire that person. And it's it will literally change your life, because then you have so much money to be able to do that. And the other thing that we do is we have something called the 3 solutions theory. And so what that is with my staff and with my assistants, so they are not constantly coming to me with stuff. I say to them, whenever they come to me, whatever, like they should try to answer it themselves. But if they can't, they're going to come to me with 3 solutions. So they'll say, this, and this. And hold on, I'm going to give you one story that I absolutely love. So I went to the Global Leadership Summit probably about 10 years ago. And it was Colin Powell, and he was having a talk, and he was being interviewed by Bill Hybels. And he says, I'll never forget it. I was with Ronald Reagan. And one time I came to him and I was like, Ronald, this is going on and this is going on. And I was just like in panic mode. And Ronald Reagan looked out on the trees and he's like, aren't the bluebirds so pretty today? And he goes, that's all he said. And he said, he looked at himself and was like, he just basically what Ronald was saying is like, I hired you for this problem. I don't care how you fix it, but I'm going to focus on the bluebirds, And so I tell my staff that story all the time. But what I do say to them is, I want you to fix the problem and I want you to be empowered to do that. If for some reason you feel like you need to come to me to be able to figure something out, come to me with 3 solutions. Coming to me that says, this is going wrong and that's not working and this is not working, that's not a good answer. You come to me and say, here's what our problem is. And here's the 3 things that I think that we can do. And then I say, okay, great. Thanks for telling me these 3 items. Which one do you think is the best option? And most of the time we go with the one option they thought was the best. If I didn't think it was the best, I'd say, well, what about this? And kind of go back and forth. But again, you want to get to a place where you're outsourcing critical thinking to someone else. And so you can't be the one. So sometimes leaders get like, oh, I got to answer everything. And, I was listening to like an NFL sports guy, and I was listening to him and they were talking about quarterbacks, and they were saying how the difference between the quarterbacks that are really good and the ones that are, not as good is that the one thing is that quarterbacks, when they have, he said something like the idea of information processing, where they can like read defenses and they can create a play out of structure when it breaks down. So like coach might have told him this, but then nothing ever goes exactly how you want it to go. And they can anticipate when the wide receiver is going to be open before they get open, or, they can kind of do some of that information processing. And you want to get to the place where you're not the one that handles all the complex decision making. You want to be able to constantly put that back on the people that you have, because if they're constantly coming to you once you do hire them and they're constantly coming to you, then you can get exhausted from constantly making all of those decisions. And that's, can really drain you. And then I really talk in the book about how to really hire the right people and which things, specifically to be able, I put checklists in there of how to automate and all of that. So I think that you will really get a lot out of it. I feel like it's one of my gifts. Like, I think God gives every person one gift that they're really good at. Like, they don't really have to try at it. And delegation's mine. And so I finally decided, everyone asks me all the time, all these different questions. So I decided to kind of say, okay, I'm going to finally take my brain and think about exactly how I do it. And I'm going to dump it into this book and be able to. And when you pre-order the book, you also get a few other webinars that I put together of kind of explaining some videos as well of exactly what you can do to be able to delegate everything but sex.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Real Life Leadership. If you'd like to get the show notes or access more resources, log on to reallifeleaders.com/podcast to get the show notes from this episode and any other resources we might have mentioned. And also, we'd love to hear from you. Be sure to review or rate this podcast on Apple Podcasts to help spread the word. And if you have any leadership questions you want answered, email podcast@reallifeleaders.com.